Okay, so everybody, welcome to today's training in small bites. Today we're going to talk about surface water grants, the educational and supplemental grants that are available to folks through the DNR's program. And if anyone doesn't know, I'm Jeanne Scherer with UW-Madison Division of Extension, Natural Resources Institute, and my work is contracted to help with a lot of the different training for our programming for AIS management prevention, I should say. So these grants are something that can get people beyond their Lakes Monitoring and Protection Network or LMPN funding. So there's surface water grants, the education category, or the Aquatic Invasive Species Supplemental Prevention grants. And there's, of course, lots of other grants out there, but these are two in particular that can be helpful for LMPN AIS coordinators to know about. So Zach Stewart is going to join us today to let us know about a program he got funded this way. And then Laura MacFarland is our go-to environmental grant specialist for questions about the surface water grants. And so if you have any specific ones or well, general ones, we'll have time at the end for that too. So if you do have a question in the meantime, you just don't want to forget it because there's a lot to cover here very quickly. Pop them into the chat so you don't forget. Just kind of like having a sticky note. We'll use the chat for that and we'll deal with them then towards the end. So you get two really important resources. One is the surface water grant page. I just Google it like I Google everything, WDNR surface water grants. And then on that page, you've got this applicant guide. There's a couple of links to it on the page, so you can't miss it. And it goes into really good details about the overall program and then each of the possible grants. And if the grant guide gets updated, it'll get put on there very quickly. So make sure that if you just need some quick information, check here first. But then also don't forget about your DNR regional AIS point of contact. So like I see Patrick is on our call this morning. Those folks that are your regional contacts will be your go-to people for basically everything. And if they can't answer the question, they will certainly know who to go to get answers. They can also just help you brainstorm some ideas. Maybe you've got a lake group that wants to do something and they've got maybe this problem, that problem, and they're drawing a blank, you're drawing a blank. That's another brain to pull on. They can help you work out the actual details, how we're supposed to be checking in with our grant specialist, with our points of contact with DNR to get your grants in shape before you submit them. And their goal is to help you be successful. I mean, we're all on the same page. We want to prevent the spread of aquatic invasive species in the state. So there's a couple good reasons to learn about these grants. First of all, they can help you carry out projects not included in your LMPN deliverables. So, for LMPN, we really have a pretty straightforward menu of items that people will work on. And so lots of people who've been doing this before LMPN were used to doing a lot of other interesting things too. And so these can help you keep doing those. It can give you some additional funding for your staff for any kind of projects you're doing in addition to the LMPN. And as you're working out what you might want to do, you're also coming up with ideas or working out ideas with your lake and river organizational partners in your region. Remember, though, for these grants, unlike LMPN, you have a match, which can be met by providing money from your organization or your partnering organizations. The use of volunteer time can count, so can the use of donated equipment. And if there's some other things that are listed in the grant information, or Laura can help us with that. It's really important to tie your grants to your program goals, your short and long-term goals, especially if you have some kind of maybe a county-wide AIS management plan that can help drive your work. And then a really important thing, I think, is especially we've learned it over the last couple of years, is try not to overextend existing staff and volunteers. The idea may be wonderful. If you don't have the manpower and capacity to do it, maybe you take a smaller bite. So surface water education grants, and these can cover a wide range of areas, not just AIS, but it does include AIS information and education. And some examples that I've seen are data collection that's then used for educational purposes, mapping projects. So those can be really cool. Maybe you want to get a really nice GIS map project done where you've mapped where AIS is located in your lake, maybe some changes you've seen over time, and align that to see if it has any relationship or potential relationship to shoreline development. Lake and river fairs, I've seen things like everything from t-shirts to helping get your speakers there. Maybe you've got a really good speaker, but somehow you need to compensate them. I think Laura might need to clarify that one. If you're doing maybe a grouping of workshops, so many people like to do, beer related tie-in workshops to get people to come fish in a keg or whatever. Developing some new AIS programming. Maybe you've got a great idea or you've seen something from another state and you want to give it a shot. It's not something we're already doing in our programming for outreach. Don't be afraid to put that forward as an idea. You could actually be kicking off a statewide pilot. If it works for you, we may want to do it more broadly. Figure out the funding and go for it. You might want to have some additional staff to do AIS education for some specific projects, so payments. And then this last example is one that we funded last year for updating the technology for the lake kit. That's a Wisconsin Lakes Mike Engelson project where they help support lake organizations' websites and make them easier to manage. So these can be local, they can be statewide, they can be regional.
Hey, Jeannie, before you go on, I'd like to add a couple of things.
Yeah.
Hey guys, this is Laura MacFarland. Those are all really great ideas for surface water education grants. I just want to emphasize kind of 2 points. And one is, as you know, as LMPN coordinators or participants in the LMPN, one thing to note is that whatever you do propose under an education grant or underneath the supplemental grants, which Jeannie will talk about next, just make sure that those activities are different from the activities listed in your LMPN cooperative services. There does need to be a distinction between your cooperative service lists and those new activities that you're proposing. They can complement one another, of course, but just make sure that there's no duplication of efforts, if you will. Another thing to note is, these examples of projects that you see on your screen right now are all really awesome examples. Just make sure that when you are brainstorming and conceptualizing these projects, that everything you're proposing is in fact eligible under NR 193 underneath the surface water grants general umbrella. For example, t-shirts, Jeannie had mentioned t-shirts. Actually, t-shirts clothing is not eligible under NR 193 unless it's DNR program specific clothing, like the Clean Boats, Clean Waters t-shirts. So there may be, and food, for example, you can't buy food for an event. So just make sure that, like I said, while you're brainstorming these things, you are referring back to that guidance and making sure that the costs are eligible.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, no worries.
There was one I ranked, 5-6 years ago that did include t-shirts, but for all I know, maybe that actually then got pulled out of the final, once they got approved, I know it got approved, maybe that particular piece got pulled out. But after we rank the grants, then they go back to the lakes biologist or the AIS biologist to work out those final details of what's allowed, what's not. And for all I know, that particular example I gave might have been pulled and I just wasn't aware of it.
Yeah, that was also under old code. So, it could have been
That's
different
true
under the old
too.
administrative code. But yeah, so if you have questions like that while you're developing the projects, you can always reach out to your biologist or your environmental grant specialist to make sure that the things you're proposing are in fact eligible.
Great. Thank you for jumping in on that. I might need you one more time here too. I somehow or another I cut off the little block that I had for funding. Um, these are up to $5,000,
That is correct.
and then it's 75% it can be paid to help you get going. And
Eh,
then, or no, 75% is the amount left. I'm gonna let you say it. I can't say it without it in front of me.
So it's as a one grant advance is available for up to 75% of the total grant award. These are 67% state cost share. So we'll provide up to 67% of total project costs, up to $5,000.
Thank you. I had that on there. I have a feeling I cut and pasted it into the wrong place. So we're gonna find out in a minute because I try never to make last minute changes to a PowerPoint, and I did that this morning. So bear with me. So, aquatic invasive species supplemental grants. The primary goal for these is reducing the spread or the risk of AIS. So, when you look at the guide, you're going to see the words shielding and containment a lot. We want to contain whatever is already in the water body, and we want to shield the nearby water bodies or even those they travel much further to from the invasive species that were in a lake or a river that someone has visited. So people have used these a lot for things like the eyelids, those surveillance type systems at the launches that have the recording that reminds you to clean off your boat on them. CD3 units, those specialized cleaning stations, and decontamination units. So maybe your organization decides to get a steam cleaner and have it out on regular times, or have special setups where people can visit to use those. And then also for prevention activities, special campaigns and events. And the example that we have from Zach is going to be one of those special campaigns. This one has a higher ceiling, but there's a specific section for under $4,000 and then some more information for greater than 4,000. The $4,000 grants and under, you, if they're tied to Clean Boats, Clean Waters, you have to have had the year prior Clean Boats, Clean Waters grant, and then you have to be continuing Clean Boats, Clean Waters during the year of the grant. That's the kind of thing where we've seen quite a few like eyelids being purchased in addition to them doing Clean Boats, Clean Waters. If you're going for greater than $4,000, we have a hierarchy of things to consider. And these are conditions that at least one of these actually has to be met. And the ones at the top of the arrow are the most important. And that is to propose a regional or multi-county coordination of a department-approved prevention program. Next could be containing a verified NR40 prohibited species or shielding a water body within 15 miles of a prohibited population. So you've got one water body that gets zebra mussels in an area that has never had them, and you're at a water body within 15 miles of that, and you want to do everything you can to keep those out. Or it could be a project addressing one of the top 300 water bodies for AIS prevention, and that list is in the AIS or in the Surface Water Grant Guide in Appendix H. And that is a list that was created by the lakes biologists and AIS staff using a variety of inputs to figure out. Another reason for these would be to contain the spread of an isolated AIS population that has a low prevalence in the geographic region. So again, you've got zebra mussels in the first lake in your county. And if you look at surrounding counties, they also have very low or no zebra mussels. So that would be important to contain there. And then preventing the introduction to a water body within 15 miles of a verified AIS population. So this is the lowest level condition, and it could be a prohibited species, it could be a restricted species, but it's more of a general protection from all AIS. And this is where I cut this. This is where I have the wrong slide. So this is unfortunate when I'm recording it. Laura, can you please help me with this one? This
Yeah,
one
is it
goes
in
up
your
to
next, is it in your,
24,000.
this?
No, it's
Okay.
somehow
Okay.
it's gone. I don't know how that happened.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so hold on, I'm pulling it up so I don't misspeak here. Oh, I lost it. So these grants, as Jeannie said, you can apply either for that up to 4,000 or up to 24,000. Up to 4,000 if you don't meet any of those requirements and you want to say a lake association or a partner wants to install an ILIDS unit at a landing, but that lake does not meet any of those necessary criteria to apply for more than $4,000. They can receive $4,000 for an ILID. It might not be as competitive an application, but they can put that in there. Now, if they met one of the requirements for that, one of those bulleted requirements that Jeannie listed before, then they could apply it for up to $24,000. Put in ILIDS, or maybe they want to step it a notch and put in a CD3 unit with the decontamination functions, and they can do that. So this is a management grant. So you would be eligible for 75% cost share up to that $24,000 if you are eligible to apply for that much. And actually, in either case, you are required to, for the most part, you are required to have implemented Clean Boats, Clean Waters in the past and intend to proceed to continue to do so into the future. Now, we may make exceptions if, say, for instance, if there's a response or a need for an activity in response to a a prohibited species, like say this is a really hot issue and we need to contain and shield now, and you haven't implemented Clean Boats, Clean Waters in the past, we may make an exception in some very rare situations. See, what did I miss?
The advance and the advance.
Yep, so
yeah.
the advance is 25% advance. This is the same as all management grants, so 25% advance payments. And then a grantee can request annual partial payments, not to exceed 4 partial payments overall through the life of the grants.
Okay, thank you so much. We actually got more information than if I'd had my slide right in the first place. So I'll try to figure out how to get that inserted into the recording when I get it fixed up for YouTube. So since I'm talking about grants, I thought I'd throw in my wish list of things that have come up for me as I've ranked grants over the last, I don't know, eight years or so. Things that I don't always see, but I wish I did. So examples of how the project will build on previous activities, if there've been any. Obviously, sometimes a lake group might be brand new and they don't have previous activities. But if you do, I want to see how you're building. May not be a requirement in the grant, but it'll raise the quality, or in the application, it'll raise the quality. Describe specific activities to meet the goals. Don't just say we're going to hold 5 educational events for the Lake Wingara area. Say you're going to do some specific things, such as we will hold at least 1 pontoon classroom. We will have a lakeshore picnic with examples of invasive plants for people to learn about, things like that. You don't need the nuts and bolts, but be more specific as much as you can be. Each one of your goals should be really clear and different from the others, requiring different supporting information, even though they might be related. sometimes I feel like I'm looking at goals that are different, but for the most part, what they say they're going to do is kind of repetitious of the same thing. Um, sometimes that makes sense, but sometimes it's like something has just been cut and paste, and that's just really difficult for a grant ranker to understand what you're really doing and have a good feeling about approving the grant. If your grant is primarily data gathering, and some of these can be, if it's an education grant, make sure you have some kind of clear statement of how you're going to actually use that material educationally. It might just be going into a new lake management plan, but if you can say a little bit more, that would be helpful. Like if you're going to present it somewhere. Diversity and inclusion have become a huge important thing to everybody. And so if you are saying you are being inclusive or diverse or whatever in some way, describe how you're going to engage that audience. Are you simply going to invite people you didn't invite before? Are you going to, maybe it's a physical inclusion. Are you going to make sure you have comfortable seating for people who can't stand? Maybe you're working with the local tribes. Are you talking with them, maybe doing the planning together so that you're getting their perspectives and not just presenting yours? Consider that type of thing. It's really important, and it will more truly look diverse and inclusive. And consider adding an evaluation component that's more specific. Then people will care more about taking care of their lake or shorelines. Evaluation should be something that is measurable. What are you going to evaluate, and how are you going to do it? You could actually put in for a grant just to evaluate a previous program. We can work with the eval team at Extension here in UW Madison. Actually did that with a lake group over the last year or so. And that's what I have. I'm going to let Zach Stewart from Douglas County take it away. And we got a little bit late because of my slide kerfuffle, but we weren't going to worry about that. Just use the time you need, Zach.
Hey, Jeannie, real quick, you have a question in chat. I thought we'd address real quick about grants.
Okay, yeah, go ahead, and I'll stop sharing in the meantime.
And see, it looks like the question was, would a PI survey to satisfy an APM update be under an education grant? Those would typically come in under a planning grant. So I'd consult with your biologist if there was maybe a good justification as to why you might solicit an education grant versus a planning grant. But yeah, I would consult with your biologist before going that route. Traditionally, you would probably go the route of a planning grant.
Thanks. Okay, Zach, you should be able to share now.
Right on. Yeah, hi everybody. Zach Stewart here from Douglas County, and thank you, Jeannie and Laura, for all that information on the supplemental prevention grants. That was great. So basically, just as Jeannie mentioned earlier in the talk, this is a great way to supplement LMPN funding. Basically, the new LMPN model is awesome. It's working really well for us, but here in Douglas County, we have program goals and objectives that we want to meet that are on the order of 4 or 5 times more than what can be contained in the LMPN. So we're looking to other sources to just continue making our program robust. And right now, I'm working on a supplemental prevention grant that I started this year called Stop Spiny. It's focused on spiny water fleas, and it's a super fun program. I'm really excited about it. So far, it's going really great. Folks really seem engaged and excited about it. And so far, I've reached several hundred people around the region, and lots more coming over the next couple of years. I worked a little bit with
Zach,
Macer.
do you have a screen up that you're trying to share, or?
Nope, nope.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to make sure we weren't missing anything. Go ahead. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
no worries. Thanks, Jeannie. I'll share a couple of slides in a sec here and give people some glimpses at the activities that we're doing. Thanks for checking though, because that would be a total Zach move to get warmed up on my topic and forget that I'm not sharing. Okay, so yeah, this program is in coordination with MACERC over in Minnesota and Meg Durr over there, who started some spiny water flea specific prevention in Minnesota. And it's something I'd love to take farther in the future and maybe broaden our implementation here in Wisconsin. So I think what I'll do is just spend about 5 minutes or so sharing a little message about Stop Spiny so that you all can get a flavor of what this program is like. And then we can review really quick how it fits into AIS supplemental prevention category and take any questions. So Jeannie, could you do me a favor and just give me a thumbs up if you're able to hear the sound when I play this? Hi, everyone. I'm Zach Stewart, Natural Resources Specialist with Douglas County, Wisconsin, and I'm here today to talk to you about the spiny water flea and how we can stop its spread to Wisconsin lakes. This is the spiny water flea. Its Latin name is Bithotrephes longimanus. It is a zooplankton or an invertebrate animal, and it has this long, pronounced tail spine that you can see in the photograph on the right. Once the spiny water flea invades one of our lakes and establishes itself, it cannot be easily eradicated. So we must stop spiny or prevent the spread of spiny water fleas into new lakes. Its weakness is that it can't travel very far independently. So how did it get here in the first place? Well, the spiny water flea was brought to the Great Lakes area from Eurasia on transatlantic shipping vessels in their ballast water. It was first detected in 1982 in Lake Ontario, but now it's spread to all 5 of the Great Lakes. It's a harmful invasive species, and it's listed as prohibited on Wisconsin's NR 40 list of invasive species. It can move in a few different ways. One is when people accidentally move water from one lake to another. It can also snag against fishing lines, like in this picture, and be transported on our equipment. And finally, the spiny water flea can produce resting eggs, which lie in the mud at the bottom of the lake. So if we accidentally move mud on our boots or our anchors from one lake to another, it could bring spiny water fleas with it. So to prevent their spread, we need to clean, drain, and dry our boats and equipment before moving to a new lake. Why do we care so much about preventing the spread of spiny water fleas? Well, they can have some really negative effects on lakes once they get in there. I'll remind you that they're predators, so they actually eat our native zooplankton and reduce their biomass. This can alter the biodiversity profile in our lake and disrupt our native food webs. This will cause reduced water clarity and can also damage the fishery. In fact, research from Minnesota shows that walleyes tend to be smaller and less abundant in lakes that are infested with spiny water fleas as compared to pristine lakes. Why do spiny water fleas have these effects on a lake? Well, to answer that question, I have to introduce you to our native zooplankton. This is a Daphnia species. You can see it's round and soft, and it has this relatively modest sized tail spine. And I like to imagine that in the eyes of a hungry walleye, who do eat zooplankton during their first year of life, a Daphnia might look something like this, a juicy meal with a small spine that can probably be dealt with. Now compare that to the invasive spiny water flea. It has a much larger tail spine that can be damaging and difficult to consume. I imagine that this looks much less appealing, perhaps something like this. Not a very appealing meal for a walleye. So what can we do about it? Well, this year, with support from many partners, I'm launching the Stop Spiny campaign for preventing the spread of spiny water fleas in northern Wisconsin. The goal is to stop the secondary spread of spiny water fleas from the Great Lakes into our inland waters. And there's 4 key activities in the project. The first one are educational, science-focused presentations for the public. The second activity is media outreach, both through social media and print media. The third is distributing Stop Spiny cleaning cloths that will help anglers clean equipment before they move to a new lake. And the last is specifically targeted Clean Boats, Clean Waters training modules for our Clean Boats, Clean Waters inspectors. In summary, remember to clean, drain, and dry your own equipment. Get out there and share the Stop Spiny message. Reach out to me if you'd like to get involved. And if we work together and take these actions, we can keep our lakes healthy and we can keep them full of these instead of these. Thank you very much for listening today, and a big thank you to all our colleagues and partners listed right here. Without their support, this work would not be possible. Okay, so there we are. That is the little lightning 5-minute long version of the Stop Spiny program that I'm implementing. Hopefully that gives you a little taste of the main project activities that we're working on. And you know, if you were listening closely with those surface water grant requirements in mind, you'll probably notice some of those key bullet points that Jeanne was talking about earlier. So you know, you can see from the map that we have this regional multi-county coordination, including the 4 counties that border on Lake Superior up here. That is important because Lake Superior contains a verified population of the NR40 prohibited spiny water flea. So that brings in the shielding and containment of numerous inland water bodies within 15 miles of a known infestation. And we're also trying to, you know, prevent the spread of this species, which has a fairly isolated presence in our region so far. I know that moved pretty fast through the map, but there's just 3 infestations up here: the Guile flowage in Iron County, St. Louis River estuary here in Douglas County, and then various areas in Lake Superior. So this particular program hits on, I think, all the different requirements for the AIS Supplemental Prevention Grant category. And yeah, it's been a really fun program so far. That's just the 5-minute version, but what I normally do is, you know, a half-hour, hour-long talk for folks. We go into way more detail about the science of spiny water fleas, and the way it goes is it's tending to lead to these really broad conversations with stakeholder groups and lake associations. And when people learn some more detail of the science of spiny water fleas, they naturally tend to ask a few questions and then start brainstorming their own local strategy for containment or shielding, depending on the setting of the lake that they're in. And I can help provide some resources for that conversation, and then, you know, follow up with some of the media resources that they can use in their newsletter, in providing some of the Stop Spiny cleaning cloths that they can hand out to folks who visit their area. I think I'll leave it at that for today, but very happy to take any questions or discuss.
I love your graphics with especially the hot dog.
Yeah, it seems to stick in people's mind, and nobody said I don't get to have a little bit of fun too, right?
That's right. I don't think you lost the message with that. Sometimes things like, I know that's another topic I'll go over some other day, but yeah, that's lots of fun. David, do you have any additional questions for Zach or for Laura?
I have one more thing I'd like to add. Great job, Zach. That was awesome. I too love the graphics. I just want to remind everybody that we do revise our surface water grant guidance every year. And right now we are in the process of putting the finishing touches on the FY23 grant guidance document. And we will be going out for public comment on that within the next few weeks. So stay tuned, keep a close eye on the surface water grant homepage, and I want to emphasize this, sign up for that Gov delivery announcement if you have not already. So on the surface water grant homepage, there is a sign up for a Gov delivery, and we'll shoot you an email anytime any changes are made to anything. We don't spam you. You'll get an email maybe once every couple of months from us. So if you haven't done that already, sign up so you'll get the notification when the new guidance comes out. And if you have any comments on the draft public guidance that comes out, please, by all means, please provide us feedback. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I'm going to go ahead and thank Zach and Laura. Invaluable having you both join me today. So much more information than I could have provided alone. And I'm going to sign off as far as our recording, but if you want to stick around for a couple more minutes to throw out any ideas to share, we can at least keep the call open for that. But for the recording part, I'll be turning it off now.